Hello everyone, welcome to this 48 hours mains answer writing program for sociology. My name is Amit Kumar Bose. It's a BOAC Bose. Please be careful about the spelling there. Anyway, uh, we are going to talk about the two questions which we gave you on Friday to write your answers. Okay. Now, before starting with the discussion of those two questions, I would like to talk about some general issues here. Some general issues that I have seen, the problems that I've seen in answer writing. Let me talk about those issues first. There are certain basic keys to write a good answer. The first and foremost thing that I'll be talking about is spelling. Please be careful about the spellings that you write. Simultaneously comes grammatical errors or grammar, including sentence construction. Not just this time, year after year, we do see quite often than not, because we don't form the sentences properly, so we can hardly convey the meaning that we thought of. We fail to convey that meaning to the examiner, to the person who's going through the answer. Okay, so though we know the concepts, though we have the understanding, we cannot convey the meaning that we are looking at properly to the examiner. Okay, so sentence construction becomes very significant here. Next comes understanding the demand of the question. What we do, the moment we get the questions, we start writing answers. We just jump into it. Don't do that. Take a minute's time. Go through the question carefully. Please try and understand the meaning there. And I am not a very firm believer of that keyword-based approach. So please don't talk about that keyword-based approach to me. These are simple English sentences. Go through them. Try and understand the meaning here. Comprehend the meaning here. And by understanding the meaning of the question, try to understand the demand, what you're going to write. Just because you know everything about one particular concept doesn't mean that's the demand of the question. The question might be looking at only one particular perspective. Okay, so please try and understand the demand of the question. We also need conceptual clarity on the topic. Okay, to properly understand the demand of the question, obviously conceptual clarity is a must. Then comes structuring of the answer. If the answer is not properly structured, everything becomes jumbled up. So please focus on structuring of the answer. Next comes the diagram. I have seen a number of you using diagrammatic representations, going for diagrammatic representations. But please do understand, diagrams are two-edged swords. Yeah, if you draw the diagram properly, if the diagram is conceptually correct, it's conveying the right concept there. Yes, concepts are there in diagrams. We don't understand that, right? So if the diagram is presenting the proper concept, it's right in that sense. At the same point of time, if I elaborate the diagram properly in my answer, it will fetch me good marks. Have you ever seen any book where just the diagram has been given? No, right? In every book, along with the diagram, we also do get elaboration of the diagram. Clear? So please keep that in mind while drawing a diagram. Do take the pain to elaborate what you have mentioned in the diagram properly. I know there are a number of online platforms where, in the name of writing answers, just the diagram is given. That's not how we should be writing answers. In those cases, don't expect any marks. Just by drawing an answer, just by drawing a diagram, you're not actually giving any answer. Okay, diagrams are force multipliers. They themselves are not answers. Okay, so be careful about drawing diagrams. And then finally, let me get into the questions. The two questions which I have given you, I'm reading those questions one by one. The first question that reads, examine the historical antecedents behind emergence of sociology as a discipline. Okay, now see, behind any social phenomena, anything that's happening, emergence of sociology is also a social phenomena, right? Behind any social phenomena, there would be multiple causes or multiple chains of reasons. Okay, Behind emergent sociology, we do see at least two separate strains of antecedents. One, the stream of intellectual developments, and number two, the historical developments. When we talk about the intellectual developments, what do we mean? I'm looking at number of books, number of intellectual works. Say, for example, Thomas Hobbes' Leviathan, right? Thomas Hobbes, he writes a book called The Leviathan. What is he talking about in the book? He took a look at the realistic approach. Just go for the realistic approach that's there to deal with the social problem in that book. Okay. Simultaneously, I'm talking about Machiavelli, Niccolo Machiavelli. He writes a book called The Prince, right? And what is he doing there? He's providing us with the analysis of the system of governance of the state. And what are the conditions for the success of the state as a phenomenon, right? So obviously that too is another strain of intellectual development which has been influencing the society. Simultaneously, I'm looking at the work of Montesquieu. Montesquieu writes a book called The Spirit of Law, right? In that book, The Spirit of Laws, he talks about the social and political climate playing a significant role in the lives of the society. Simultaneously, we are looking at the works of Rousseau, Adam, number of other scholars, right? But these are intellectual antecedents, right? These are not historical antecedents. This question, it specifically talks about the second strain, the historical antecedents. And these historical antecedents come, whatever people may say, they're starting from the US War of Independence. Okay. In most of the answers, I've seen the answers, they're talking about French Revolution as if everything happened because of French Revolution. No. There are a chain of sequences. We need to understand that chain of sequences here. The US War of Independence that happens from 1774 to 1776. 1774, the greats, the stalwarts like George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, they would come up with the Declaration of Freedom, the Declaration of Independence, right? For 2 years, the war will go on. At the end of the war in 1776, when USA will come up as an independent country, they would give rise to two unique ideologies or principles, I would say. What are these? Liberty, republic. It's not independence, it's liberty. Okay? And republic. The idea of republic, where it is not the monarchy or some hereditary ruler or some aristocrat who's controlling the people. Rather, someone from within the people becoming the head of the state. Right? In US War of Independence, French soldiers also participated. Why? A colonial rivalry was going on between England and France. So when the US War of Independence started against the British colonialists, France would send its soldiers to America to help the Americans fight against the British. These French soldiers, when they went to America to participate in the US War of Independence, they also would get influenced by those two ideologies, republic and liberty. They would carry these ideologies or these ideals with them to France as well. 1776, the end of US War of Independence. For 13 years, these ideas they would create internal turmoil in France, and finally in 1789, the French Revolution will take place. We would see the direct involvement of these ideas in the French Revolution. Now what happens? Now, the French Revolution in turn would give rise to a number of new ideologies, secularism and a number of others. I'm not getting into them. I'm looking at two ideologies here. Number one, right to ask question. Right of the common person to ask question from the leaders of the society, from the leaders of the government or the executive. Right? That right. And not only that right of the common person, at the same point of time, the right of the common person to get a logical answer, to get a rational answer. Okay, it's not just anything what you felt like you just give that thing and I'll consume that answer. No, it should be a rational and logical answer. Okay. From these two ideologies or from these two ideas would start rising the idea of rationality or scientific thinking. Okay. This would pave the way for further scientific revolution. Renaissance was already going on, enlightenment as we call it, was already going on, right? So simultaneously would come the idea of scientific thinking, scientific revolution, then would come industrial revolution behind the curtains, right? In England, industrial revolution would happen. So number of these historical antecedents that happened, right? Now what happened when this, see, any revolution, when the revolution happens, in the aftermath of the revolution, chaos rises in the society. This happened in India as well. 1947, when India got its independence, after that, for 2-3 years, there was a kind of chaos. Now, our advantage was that the leaders of the society at that point of time, the leaders of the country, they were visionary. They knew how to handle those things. They handled them beautifully, and gradually, normalcy or order started returning in the society, right? It was in this backdrop, in France, I'm talking about, not India anymore. It was in that backdrop, the chaos that was rising. To provide solution to that chaos, sociology as a distinct discipline would emerge. Okay, so if I have to talk about the historical antecedents of sociology, rise of sociology, I am looking at those particular aspects. I'm looking at those historical events, not the intellectual antecedents. This question is very specific about the historical antecedents, right? So I'm not talking about any intellectual development here. So the works of Thomas Hobbes, Rousseau, Aron, or Machiavelli, or anyone else for that matter, Montesquieu, right? So please be careful while writing the answer. Again, read the answer, read the question carefully, try to understand the demand of the question, and then write the answer. Clear? This error has been seen in the answers of a number of you. Be careful about that. There's a model answer as well. Please go through the model answer and see, compare the model answer that we have given with what you have written. Okay, see there what's happening, how it's different. Also, I've tried to be reasonably to give my feedback there in your copies. So please go through those feedbacks as well. Okay. Next question I'm looking at. The next question reads, sociology is a systematic study of social action in a modern and contemporary setting. There are 3 dimensions here. Okay. This question, let's try and understand the demand of the question. This question is not so simple. This question is talking about sociology working in the modern and contemporary setting. First aspect. Second aspect, while working in the modern and contemporary setting, sociology is also trying to deal with social action, or rather social action being the primary concern of sociology. This question is more about scope of the subject sociology, right? Number of you've written from Max Weber. Please, that's not what we were talking about. This question is not about social actions theory of Max Weber. That's what most of you have written. Don't do that. Again, read the question carefully and then try to understand the demand of the question. The 2 aspects I talked about, let's try and understand those 2 aspects. The backdrop where sociology emerges, right? I'm drawing continuity from the first question. See, I told you that after any revolution for that matter, any major social change, political change, chaos rises in the society. And exactly that's what happened in France as well. But the problem is, say for example, I was talking about India, right? In India, we are blessed to have good leaders here in those days. What happened in France is there was hardly any leadership. Rather, there was a kind of seeking for vengeance among the people. The revolution would happen in 1789. For next 10 years, from 1789 to 1799, in these 10 years, they would give death penalty to 21,000 people. Anyone who knew anything about governance was killed. Okay. Now, in this backdrop, you tell me, how can a country carry forward, or how can a society carry forward? The chaos that rose in the immediate aftermath that got perpetuated. So much so that in 1799, when Napoleon Bonaparte would finally try to rise to power, common people of France, they would accept it, they would welcome him. Right? So chaos was going on in the French society for long. It was in this backdrop, when this chaos was going on, that Saint-Simon, one of the philosophers, various philosophers, they were trying to find out solution or solve the problem of this chaos. One of these philosophers, called Saint-Simon, he would try to solve the problem in a unique way. He would say that this problem, the chaos that you're looking at, this problem, the nature of this problem is social. It's more because of the social issues or the tendency of the society that this chaos is going on. So to provide solution to the problem, you need to study the society at first. And how to study the society? Rationally, scientifically. Okay. In 1822, Saint-Simon, along with his student, Auguste Comte, they would write a book called Plans for Scientific Operations Necessary for Reorganization of the Society. Okay, that's the book that they would write. The objective of the book, to find out solution to the ongoing chaos. Okay. And again, in which society this discussion is going on? In a modern society, modernity. What do we mean by modernity? Wearing a shirt, pant, and all these things. No, that's not modernity. Modernity means where we think rationally, where we think logically, scientific thinking. That's a modern society. Okay. So with the rise of rationality in the backdrop of the French Revolution, societies started becoming modern. And it was in this modern society that sociology is emerging as a distinct discipline. Do you realize that? Finally, in 1838, Auguste Comte, he would separate from Saint-Simon and he would write a book called Positive Philosophy. And in that book, he would try to establish sociology as a distinct discipline. That's what happened. Okay. So I do see how sociology as a distinct discipline emerges in a modern and contemporary setting only. Here, that's the first aspect of the demand of the question. Now I'm looking at the second aspect. That is, why sociology is so concerned about social action. When we talk about scope of the subject sociology, what does sociology study? It studies the whole society. But the society is a very big thing, how to study the whole society. There are 5 different ways to look at the society, to study the society. That's what is discussed in the what we talk about as scope of the subject sociology. What are these 5 dimensions or 5 ways of looking at or studying society? Number 1, social action. Number 2, social institution. Number 3, social organization. Number 4, social structure. Number 5, culture. So of the 5 ways of studying the society, social action is one of the ways, and the first and primary way. Right? I'm looking at 2 particular scholars, Max Weber and Calcutt Parsons. They both are adapting this way of studying the society through social action. How is Max Weber defining sociology? He defines sociology as a study of social actions. He directly says that sociology is nothing but the study of social actions. How is Calcutt Parsons looking at the subject sociology? The first major work of Calcutt Parsons, The Theory of Social Actions, published in 1937. Okay, Calcutt Parsons, he writes that the locus standi of sociological theory is to be in the external field of institutional structures built with the help of social actions. What's the meaning of this? Calcutt Parsons says that look at society. What is society? Society is something shaped by the social system, right? Social systems, they come together and they form society. What is social system? Nothing but collection of social actions. When social actions or meaningful interactions between social actors, they get established, they get systematized. Say, your relationship with your father, it's systematized. There is a set pattern there. Your relationship with your mother, your relationship with your friend, your relationship with your brothers and sisters, there is a set pattern in that, right? When the social actions, they get systematized, they get established in a pattern, that social action starts giving rise to social system. System of interaction between people, right? Gradually, these systems, when they get bigger, they start shaping the society. So if you have to study the society, study the social actions. Through the social actions, study the social system. And through the social system, study the society. That's the way of understanding of Calcutt Parsons. Clear? So if this is how the scholars, the greats, they are looking at the study of sociology. And where they are looking at it? In the modern and contemporary setting, right? That was the demand of this question. I've seen a number of few people to write about social action theory of Max Weber. No, that was not the demand of the question, right? Again, before jumping into writing the answer, please read the question carefully. Once you read the question carefully, now structure the answer first and then write the answer. Clear? By the way, I hope you already have the model answers with you people. Go through the model answers as well. And please tally them. Please try and understand yourself. See, my comments are my understandings. You also need to understand where all you fluctuated. Okay, so please compare your answers with the model answers. Do that. That's all, guys. That's all for today's discussion.